Okay, I think we're on. So, hey everyone, and welcome back to Crush It with Confidence, episode 3 today. If you're here live, say hi so we know that you're there and we know that it's actually working, since we had a bit of a false start last week. So, throughout the entire time, if you like what you're hearing, press the heart button, let us know what you think. If you're watching this on another platform afterwards, like the blog or on YouTube, leave a comment so we can just continue the conversation. I'm really excited to have our next guest on today to talk about all things success, because I find that success is a really funny thing because it varies so much from one person to another, and surprisingly a lot of us are really good at stopping ourselves from being successful. So I really want to talk about all the things that we can do to let us achieve the success that we're supposed to be having. So before I want to get started, I just want to say that you're free to ask questions, share your stories. I'm going to keep an eye on the comments on my phone in a second. And if you're watching the replay, also leave your questions. We can continue that conversation after the live stream is over as well. So with all of that out of the way, I'd like to welcome the wonderful Lynne Taggart today. Yay! It's so exciting to have you. Lynne is a spiritual mindset and success coach, and she teaches soulful entrepreneurs how to step fully into their truth, work from their intuition, and build a business that is in alignment with their vision of success. And dum dum dum, she believes that the hustle is outdated and ease and flow are the new black. I want to hear all about that because that's like totally against what everyone's telling you. They're like, if something's not working, you have to just work harder, you have to hustle more. So if there is another way, I'm pretty sure all of us would like to learn more about that. So with that, welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time to come on today and tell us a little bit more about you, who you are, who you serve, what do we need to know?
Hey Jessica, hey ladies, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, so like you said, I'm a spiritual success and mindset coach, and I work with female entrepreneurs, powerhouse women, high achievers, to really help them to get into alignment so that they can find their flow. And you're totally right, I am the queen of flow, and I discovered this after doing 5 launches pretty much back to back last year, and still didn't really loved what I was doing at the time, but still hadn't really found my flow. And I've since, like, this year has all about being really stepping into that more and more and leading my clients into that. And, you know, I do a lot of energy work, spiritual work, mindset work. I'm a huge fan of the law of attraction and universal laws. And I really find that when you're tapping into the abundance that's all around us and you're co-creating with the universe, you can really supercharge anything in your business and have that, you know, move towards that successful vision in a totally different way where it doesn't feel like, you know, I'm going to burn out, I'm really stressed. Is this what it takes? I hear a lot of that in this industry, like people are just kind of done, they're exhausted, or they don't take action because they don't know where to start because it's all a bit crazy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of the energy work that I do with my clients as well, which of course we're going to riff about today.
Yay! I think that's like so important because at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that none of us started a business to be like even more exhausted than we were when we were like working a job. So it kind of like seems almost counterproductive that we work all of these hours and then you still haven't got the results to sort of show for it. So that's super frustrating. And I think that's why so many people give up. They just say, hey, I can't do this. Like, I'm permanently exhausted. It's easier for me to just get paid the same amount of money and have set hours and not have to worry about all of this. So yeah, it's a completely different way of looking at it. So how did you arrive at this point? You said 5 launches back to back. That is insane. So,
I know, it was a lot of fun last year, but just to give you a bit of background, so I have been self-employed since the young age of 23, which feels like a lifetime ago. I was in the fashion industry, so I had a clothing boutique and was very much involved in the buying, the back end of the business, and I was on the shop floor 6 days a week, which was amazing. And that really, you know, I just knew when I come out of uni that I had this business degree, didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew I wasn't going to work for somebody else. I was so passionate about creating something for myself that I absolutely loved. I was just, quite driven and motivated, and I knew that I had to follow this path that felt really good. And so I was there for 8 years. I got married, had 2 gorgeous kids quite quickly. And the thing that you just touched on that really did it for me was that how could I put the kids first with that business? It reached a glass ceiling, if you like, in terms of income. And I could only do as much as what the opening hours of the shop permitted me to do. Yeah. I did launch a website with the shop, and that kind of excited me more. I was really into the virtual side of it. And I, was kind of weighing the whole thing up and feeling really disconnected as a parent. And, as a wife, I was kind of snappy all the time and didn't really love myself or make, everything was about other people. It was never about me. And I didn't make the decision, but my hubby pretty much made the decision for me and said, look, we're going to close this business. It's not worth it. You're not getting the money. I was literally exchanging money for childcare, what we've just been talking about. And so I'm so glad that he did actually make that decision, because in hindsight, it opened up. It was almost as if one gate closed and another gate opened. But there was this period in between of where I had a complete meltdown. I was a hot mess, and I felt that a big part of my identity with the shop closing had been took away from me. Who was I? What was I here to do? Because I wasn't here just to be a stay-at-home mum. And the financial independence for me was key. I really needed to feel financially independent and not be the woman who was going to have to go to my hubby every other week or every week and say, please give me money, we need money for this. And that just felt really horrible for me. And I was feeling, really anxious and stressed, and I knew that there was more. And so I kind of started exploring a couple of avenues. And one in particular, which actually I'm really thankful for, that got me onto the route of self-development, was network marketing. And so I kind of played about with that for a bit and was mentoring women in that industry. I was coaching and leading teams and taking meetings and all sorts of things. And I didn't really know that coaching was a thing until September 2015. I was scrolling Facebook and I came across a Facebook ad from my coach, who's still my coach today. And I was blown away when I started to realize, wow, I could get paid to coach. This could be a business. And so I joined a coaching program back then and pretty much followed, the route and set myself up this online business and began to mentor women with the thing that I had already been doing, which was how to set yourself up in business. And a lot of it was that inner work, the mindset work, which, we're going to touch on today. And back then, that's all I knew how to do. And it felt weird that, I was starting this other thing and I had so many fears. What were people going to say? Who would even find me online? I have this funny accent because I live in Northern Ireland. Who the hell is going to listen to me? So there was all of that going on. But I just knew that I was becoming a better person. I was so much nicer to myself. I was finding a deeper connection with the kids and my friends and my family. And things just started to shift, and I was less anxious and more energized, and I could suddenly see that I could actually create exactly what it was that made me feel really, really good. And so from that place, so I graduated that coaching program in April 2016, and then just continued to build and build and build from there. And it's actually been a really crazy but incredible journey because, I have this gorgeous community and tribe of soulful women who I absolutely adore. And, even just doing an interview like this, it makes me think, if you can change one person's life or you can impact them in any small way, that's what we're here to do. That's what, I think my soul's purpose is here, just to impact other people through voice, through message, through video, whatever that looks like. And so when you can do that, it absolutely changes everything. And I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why we're here today, because I'm just like, okay, why is there some 23-year-old in a coffee shop that believes that she has to choose between children and career? Like, that just made me leave Costa scratching my head, being like, did she just say that? Like, and then I was like, well, there's other ways, but like nobody knows about it. It's like it's this secret world. Like, we all operate in this secret world that nobody understands, nobody's heard of. Somebody can be completely internet famous and go and still shop in their local supermarket because the normal population doesn't know who you are. And this is like a completely crazy thing where you have this split between your online friends, your online community, and your real life. And it's like, there isn't enough people talking about this. It's not like, in a lot of areas, it's not considered a real business. It's not, it's not a shop that you can go to. So where's your business? I don't understand it. And I found that so frustrating that I was like, if I can just convince people that this is the way to go and that you can make this happen, then I feel like I've made someone's day, particularly if they're frustrated at home with their children. Like, I've spoken to so many mums that are like, I'm brain dead at home. I'm just like looking after my baby the entire day, and I'm like, I can't go back to work because I can't afford it. And they're just like wasting away all of their skills and their passions, and everything is given up for somebody else. And it's like such a shame that I was like, oh, I think we need to get more people out there to like spread the message of this is something that you can do. And the thing is though, and that's why I really wanted to talk about this, so many people start and give up. And something happens along the way that even when things are going well to a certain extent, we reach a point, and then it's like you said already, the glass ceiling. We think glass ceilings only exist in corporate, but I don't think they do. I think we almost create them for ourselves sometimes. And you hit that point, and then you're just like, oh, I have 3 clients, I can't move beyond that. I've made 5Ks a month, but I can't move beyond that. And then we just get stuck. Why on earth is this happening? Why is this happening to people? People, I bet they're sitting at home thinking like, this happens to me. Why is this happening to me? So what can we do to move beyond that?
Yeah, a great question, and it's a loaded question too. I'd love to hear from people if this has happened. But I see this with my clients where, and I actually warn all of my clients at the beginning of working together, like, this is going to happen at some point. Your fear, so it's ego-based, so what you're hearing in your mind and your head is the conscious, and a lot of it is fear-based or ego-based, and it's not real, but it's come from, your programming, your beliefs, what your family have achieved. So, for example, a mum or dad who has earned a certain level, and then that becomes your earning plateau. It's coming from all around us, and it's kind of ingrained in us. And so there comes a point on your entrepreneurial journey where you hit something like that and you can't move past it. And it's very hard to see for yourself what is holding you back. Now, what I love to really go deep with my tribe is to identify the resistance. So what's the trigger for the resistance? When does it come up? Why does it come up? And let them explore it, because the worst thing that you can do is pretend that it's not there, or, run the opposite direction and really let it take you out for weeks, for months, maybe it even makes you give up your business. There's always a way to navigate those fears, and quite often, so I'm a very visual person, so I'm always kind of like, painting these analogies for people. Quite often there's this block, and it's kind of like that boulder in the river, and we think that we have to go over the top of it, but the truth is we can navigate around it. There's always a way around it. But it's having the belief that on the other side is something that brings you closer to your vision, and that's what people forget. They're so based in the past, that old story, that default that they're programmed to go towards, that they forget that in front of them on the other side of the block is this beautiful vision, and that's why they started the business. And, that takes people out, and I really feel that if I didn't have the support that I've had on my journey, so I've always had a coach, I've always had mastermind partners, I've made sure that I attend things just to get out of, the rhythm of being behind your laptop and things like that. And it's those things together, when combined, that you suddenly realize, well, other people are going through it. I'm not alone. It happens to everyone. But when we're in it, we make a big deal about it, and we tell ourselves that it's us. There's something that we are doing wrong, and so it's easier to give up. It's easier just to go back to that job. It's easier just to, you know, play small and not be visible and not put ourselves out there, or not launch that program in case it fails. That's always easier. But we'll probably go into this a little bit deeper. When we play that game of playing small, we limit ourselves from abundance. So we limit ourselves from the freedom, from having more time, from having more money, from all of those things. And for me, that's scarier. But when you're in that whole thing that's going on around the fear, you very often can't see that for yourself. You almost need somebody else to see your own blind spots.
That's, I think, what I noticed the other day, because I got a message from someone who said that, hey, I took this course and I started my business, but I just can't get clients. So I was like, well, there's a reason for it. Let's talk about it. So we're talking about it, and then we discussed possible options, you know, what she'd been doing so far. But then 10 minutes into the conversation, we were talking about loads of other things that were actually stopping her. So we were talking about the fact that the child's not in school till September. She's struggling to actually take any calls. So she'd have to get support from her husband, who wasn't really particularly supportive of the business. So she didn't want to ask for help. So she didn't want to market herself in the first place, because she was worried about not being able to deliver. She was worried about not being able to attend the calls, about having to cancel, about letting people down. And suddenly we're on this entirely different track. And actually the problem is not that the course didn't deliver the information that she needed to get clients. The course she was doing did what it was supposed to do, but she wasn't in the right place to actually tackle any of that. But she was like, oh, I've never thought that it was actually this childcare situation that was bothering me so much. So now that we've identified what it is, it's so much easier to try and actually work on the solution. But until that point, you feel very on your own, because, you know, I'm talking literally to myself in my head, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and there's no result. So that third person that comes in with you and the voice in your head and actually works through stuff properly, they have it so much easier, because they don't feel the fear. You know, that fear, that's with you. Your thoughts are with you. And they can just say, well, hey, how about this? Oh, yeah, I've never thought about that being an option. And it's like, yeah. So it's been like hugely essential for me to talk to other people and to go and see that regardless of what stage someone's business is in, they have the same challenges. So I spent my mastermind in a room with people who've made loads more money than I have. And guess what? They're having the same problems. They don't want to launch something. They don't want to finish the webinar. It's the same. So it doesn't matter whether they are 5 years ahead or 10 years ahead. The only thing that's really changed is the amount of money associated with the decision that has to be made.
Absolutely.
But everything else is the same.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at being in that situation where, you know, we're thinking of running the other way, is there something that we can do as an emergency reaction to like stop us from making any kind of silly decisions in the moment? Like, put the plaster on in the first place.
Yeah, like I think, you know, have kind of a suite of tools and resources that you can go to. So I'm giving my clients tools, if you like, and I say to them, like, you're going to have these tools in your back pocket, and when you need them, use them. So the worst thing you can do is forget about them and not use them. One of the main things that I'm giving my clients is their spiritual practice. I'm helping them to tune into that. And that is a space or an environment, if you like, that helps them really to drop out of their head and more into their soul. And they're connecting with source energy or whatever they believe in. They take some time to meditate, to breathe, to use essential oils, anything at all that gets them out of their own head, because the danger is when you're in that place of being in your ego, in your head, in your fear. Get out your journal and write about it. Like, ask your journal a question and write to your inner being and ask her, why is this coming up for me? What is the real fear? What is the lesson? I always think in that fear, there's a lesson to learn. And so if you can learn the lesson, the fear is going to stop repeating and repeating and repeating the pattern that it's creating in your life and business. And quite often, you know, when you reach this certain level of where you're doing the inner work regularly, there comes a point where you can begin to identify your own resistance. And I think that is magical, because that's the turning point for a lot of people, where they can say, oh my gosh, this happened again, and it was a walk in the park. I was able just to move through it. I was able to get past it. This time last year, it took me out for a couple of weeks. So we start to then look at that comeback rate, and the comeback rate will always shorten as you apply more of these tools and resources. And that's just a really simple one. One of the other ones that I'm using all the time, every single day, as a mom, as a wife, you know, wherever I am, you're caught in traffic, I'm literally asking for a miracle. And so that is just me saying that in my head. You can call it a prayer, you can call it an intention. And what you're doing is putting out there to the universe that you recognize that there's this situation and you would love a miracle, and you're willing to see the miracle. And quite often there is something that will appear, or a sign, or it might not come straight away, but it might come later in the day, and you'll say to yourself, well, that's why I was stuck in traffic, or that's why we had that argument, or that's why I was feeling that way. And I've really had that miracle mindset and been using that and adopting that, and really almost like hacking it to see how many times a day can I use that and really recognize that miracles are all around us. And for a lot of people, they're not that tuned in to be able to receive the miracle, because they're so busy, they're so in the hustle, they're so stressed, they're so negatively talking to themselves. And that's another really big one, like your conscious thoughts and words. So what's the story that you're telling yourself every single day? If you're telling yourself that business is hard, that it's hard to get clients, that's exactly what you're going to attract. If you're telling yourself that it's hard and difficult to be a parent and run your business, guess what? Your kids are going to take sick, and you're going to manifest all sorts of situations whereby it is even harder to be a mum and run a business. So it's all to do with the mindset and how you show up. And, you know, even right from you get out of bed in the morning until you go to bed at night, everything matters. You don't just do this when you're on a call with your clients. You don't just do it when you're at a live event. I just think the more that you can practice this, the more naturally it's going to be a part of you. And it's all to do with authenticity, which is probably another whole subject. But if I can show up for myself and be that really authentic person behind closed doors, then I can go out into the world and be certain that I can teach this stuff, and that I can help women to shift, and that I can also invite my clients to be as authentic as they can be, to have the best life possible.
I think that's a good point, because it's hard to teach other people something when you don't believe in the fact that it's possible for yourself, and you don't invest in yourself. So I've met so many people that are like, oh, I wouldn't get any help for my business because, you know, I can't afford it, because of this, because of that, because of that. And then they're asking other people to spend quite significant amounts of money with them. And it's a bit like, well, you know, you are not happy to invest, so you can't be sold by somebody right now. So how are you thinking that someone's going to actually respond to you? So, and I found that once people have started investing at a completely different level, suddenly they're getting projects at a completely different level. And unfortunately, it's been the case like that for me a lot of times. I've had to invest before I felt like I was actually ready to do it. And that's kind of given me the push to actually make things happen. So like when we first had the baby and looked at childcare, I was like, I can't afford to pay a nanny. But if I want to make more money, I need childcare. So I'm going to have to do something. But suddenly, as soon as I'd made that decision and committed to the fact that I can afford it, I did end up getting new projects in. I got some new clients in for us, and there was no problem at all at any point. But if I hadn't made that decision, I would have never moved beyond that. So do you find that decision making and actually going out there and saying, hey, I am doing this, is when it starts changing?
Definitely, definitely. So, I always talk about the quantum leap, and when you can invest in something that feels hugely uncomfortable, you quantum leap your success, because there's an energetic shift in you where you become a vibrational match to receive that money and more back into your business. And so, I've worked with incredible mentors. I had a private coaching day with Gabby Bernstein last year, who's a New York Times bestseller. And, my story would have been, that's not possible for me. But making that investment was hugely uncomfortable, but it's opened up so much of my business. It's got me into massive alignment. It's helped me just have this incredible tribe of spiritual entrepreneurs. And I feel if I hadn't been guided to do that, and, that came through after a meditation, if I hadn't have heard that, I would never have done that. And that's just one example of where I've literally called that in. But I mean, I've invested 5 figures in my business, and I need to, because I really feel that I want to be a better person. I want to get all the support I can get. I also, like you say, I can't ask my clients to invest in me if I'm not seen to be investing in myself. And so I talk about it like, this is who I'm invested in. This is the work that I'm doing in myself. You're going to get the benefit of that. And so I think it's really important to move away from the lack mentality. And so there's a lot of people out there who just want the freebies. They just want to do things on the cheap, and it's a really low vibe energy. And so I always look at things in terms of the emotional scale and frequency. And if you're kind of low vibe and in that lack mentality, and you think that you're not worth investing in, then the universal law is going to come back on you and basically reciprocate that back into your vortex. So that, guess what? Your clients are going to want free stuff. They're not going to want to pay 4 or 5 figures for your programs. And at the same time, your clients won't have the results that you desire for yourself and your clients. So it's all related. It's such a big one.
And it's funny we say that, but it's that lack thinking is really hard to get out of, because for a lot of us, it's how we were brought up, right? So when I was little, we've never not had money, but my parents were very much like, you do not buy designer products, you know that. They are ridiculously expensive for what they are. You do not, spend money on this. You do not do that. And this is not how you deal with your money, and you keep your money safe. You hoard it like a little squirrel, and you put it in the corner, and you don't do anything with it. And all of these things just kind of stick with you. And although I'm very much not that person, I'll go into a shop and I'll think, I really like those trainers over there. How much are they? And then, oh, they're so-and-so brand. That's a designer product. You do not buy designer products. And I'm like, well, they're nice trainers and I like them. So, if I have the money, I should go and buy them. But how do we get out of that? It's like these things that we keep telling ourselves over and over and over again. There's probably so many different ones you've heard over time. You could probably write a book on the things entrepreneurs tell themselves about, their person, their business, and their entire life. But
well, a really good question to ask is that my belief, or is that someone else's? Because quite often it's, a parent or somebody very close to us that has said that, and that rings in our head, like you said with the trainer. Another thing to really check in with is ask yourself, is it a true desire? Like, you wouldn't have heard that idea in the shower or in the car or out in the walk if it wasn't meant for you. And it may be a desire that you think, oh my word, there's no way I could ever afford that. But when you really, go into the desire and start to ask, well, why did that come up for me? That's interesting. Like, really start to question the desire and say, well, I love that I'm supposed to, take a private jet from Nice airport or whatever it is, like whatever the scenario is. But if you can't see and visualize yourself doing that, or if it scares the life out of you, how can you move towards that? So how can you start to upgrade your money mindset so that you become more comfortable with bigger investments, so that you can move away from lack mentality? Like, I don't normally say can't afford. I don't normally say cheap. I don't talk about prices. I talk about investments. So start to really upgrade your language around money, how you think about money. I just think money is energy, and energy has to flow. It has to flow in. It has to flow out. And there were so many places that I used to block myself around money. I didn't want to pay bills. I didn't want to look at my bank account. And I've now realised that actually those are the things that as a CEO of a company you need to do. You need to be really transparent around money. You need to be feeling empowered around it. So feel that empowered woman when you open up your bank account, and kind of be unapologetic about, you know, wanting more money. So be unapologetic about charging whatever you charge. Think about increasing your prices and really check in with what comes up for you when you go to raise your prices, or what comes up for you when you want to invest in something and you're basing your decision on the price. Like, that's a downfall for a lot of people. They just automatically say, that's not for me. Well, the thing is, if you're on that call and you've looked at that program, or you're on that sales page, there's a reason you're there. It's absolutely meant for you. And the question you can begin to ask is, how can I make this happen? How can I allow this to be part of my world? And so that's whenever it gets really exciting, because I've seen me want to invest in things, not have the money, and I literally call it in 24 hours. And you start to manifest all of these really, really amazing transformative shifts. So again, this is, you know, kind of the work that I've been doing for a few years now. It won't happen overnight, but you have to challenge yourself to bring in money mindset work, manifestation work as part of your daily practice. If that's somewhere that you're feeling really, really blocked and you think, I'd love to know more about this, I'd love to do more work on it.
I think it's so important because, like, sometimes we don't even know how it's affecting us. Like, I once asked somebody that was saying, that they were struggling to get clients and they were using exactly the same system that everyone else was using. So I was like, well, likely it's not what you're saying. It's just slightly how you're saying it. And then I asked the person to screenshot some of their like Facebook comments and how they were helping people and showing up for them. And everything sounded just like a hint of desperate. Like, yeah. And it was a desperate situation for that person. They like had to make it work, or there was a big problem. But the problem is that other people are not going to respond very well to that desperation. So it's certain words that we use, like, hey, I need you to get on a call with me. Like, you wouldn't say that. Like, sorry, like, what do you mean? I need you to like get in touch with me. And that just shows me that just like, do I want to work with that person? Why haven't they got any clients? Why are they sounding like they're clinging to like the last straws and showing up? That's not how you show up from a place of wanting to help people in Facebook groups. That's how you're showing up from the perspective of, I am desperate and I need to find like 5 clients. So I am showing up because I want your money. And sometimes these are just little things and the person didn't even realize they were doing it. But it's because they felt so worried about their personal financial situation there and then that it was reflecting in what they were saying. And if you get on a call when your mind is in a place like that, people can tell, like, yeah. And it's very hard to get someone to invest in you at that point because it just feels off. Like, I've been on calls with people where I'm just like, okay, thanks, bye. And
yeah, I totally get that. I've seen that time and time again, and there is that lack mentality which is linked to the desperation and the neediness, and so you kind of want to dive into that and get rid of that for good. It's probably been there a while, but they're so in their story they can't see it.
Yeah, and that's why I think having somebody else to work through that, you know, it makes such a big difference because they can give you the tools that you haven't got, and then you can go and apply those tools actually in your own life. And it's like you're saying, it's practice every day. That's the only way you're actually going to change anything, because somebody spent like 10, 15, 20, 25 years like getting some of these things into your head. You're not going to be able to undo those overnight. So
yeah, the good news is it doesn't take that on the other side. Like, I've seen my clients have amazing unbelievable shifts in 3 months and 6 months. So it's just a matter of being really consistent and just declaring that you're ready to do the work, and you know, this is it, you're going to make it work, and just tune in to what it is that you want to achieve, because I think that's really important, is to follow your heart's desire and not be chasing something else that somebody else has done, because what's right for them isn't necessarily right for you.
And I think that's where the term success, I'm always really worried about people saying, hey, so-and-so is successful. Because I'm like, well, what is the definition of success? There isn't one. So what I might consider successful for myself, it could be, hey, I've gotten through the day, I've got more than 5 hours of sleep, I've done my client work for the day, the baby's happy, and right now I'm perfectly content with that. In a year's time, I might want more, but right now I might say, hey, this is enough for me. That is not your vision of success, and that is not the next person's vision of success. And I remember there was a question on the post yesterday about allowing yourself to dream.
Mm-hmm.
And people, and I know that a couple of other people have actually said that to me when we were talking about how to get to that point, is when you're so stuck and feeling like, you know, your business isn't where you want it to be, or it hasn't grown to the extent where you want it to grow, people don't allow themselves to dream and to have that vision of where they want to go. And I think that can be really difficult. So any tips for people actually letting it happen?
Yeah, like this happened to me. So I was, you know, kind of blocked around what it was that I could do to make money, and I was kind of going about it all wrong. So the big thing is like to take money out of the equation. Of course, everybody wants money because money brings about these other things, but I want people to really visualize that the money is always there. I tell my clients the money is always at arm's length. It's these things in between you and there that actually stop you from having the money. So take the money out of the equation and allow yourself space to create the vision. Because if you're so kind of suffocated and in this low energy, or, you know, you're in this job that sucks and you're surrounded by a lot of negativity, or you're so busy, or the kids are hanging off you 24/7, you need space to create. You need your own space. And for me, I had to carve that out of my day. I didn't have it, so I had to literally make it. And for me, that space was getting up earlier, getting up before the kids, before hubby, and having, you know, even 30 minutes, 40 minutes to myself, just to really sit down and just be with my soul, have that meditation, do some breath work, breathe in some oils, and just allow to come up and just ask that question, like, show me what's next, guide me as to what's next. And for me, that was really powerful. And I wouldn't say there was ever this divine download or massive aha moment, but the more that I did it, the more tuned in I became. And the more I did receive that divine download, that idea, that person to connect with, that email to write, and that in itself, when you snowball all of that together, it becomes a really powerful vision that suddenly, and it's really good to have a couple of visions. So have your big picture vision and keep that in your visualization. I have a daily visualization practice. Keep that at the forefront. But then whenever you're setting your goals, have, you know, a 6-month visualization. What does that look like? And then have one for like the month of May. And just lead with that. And every time you're stepping into this place of action, or you feel like, you know, you want to hit that goal, just ask yourself, is this thing that I'm doing moving me closer, or is it taking me further away? And so the alignment piece is key. Like, you know, the more that you do a detour and go the long way round, the more frustrated you're going to be. And what I love about, you know, having a mentor, having a coach, is that you actually fast track your way through this, because somebody else has done it before you. They can show you how to do it, and it doesn't have to take forever. Like that vision of you traveling the world, or hosting your own live retreat, or collaborating with amazing entrepreneurs, whatever the vision is, that can happen sooner than you think. But you have to take time out of the equation. So the two things that you take out are time and money. You have to take those out of the equation and just there has to be this element of I'm patient, this has to happen, believe that it's going to happen in the best timing for you. It doesn't matter if somebody else hit 6 figures in 6 months, it doesn't matter if somebody else did it in 6 weeks. It has to be your story and your journey, and you have to honour that, because in that are the life lessons that you need to learn, and if you don't learn them in that journey, you're going to have to come back and learn them all over again. And so a lot of the work as well that we are doing is kind of, we've talked about it briefly, generational. We're breaking this generational thing. You know, our parents went before us and they had to work all of these hours and it took them so long to achieve something, or maybe they never achieved it. And so we're kind of picking up and thinking this has to be hard, it has to take forever, but it doesn't. You get to decide, do you want to fast track your timeline to success? Do you want to make decisions quickly? Do you want to move through all of these stories and lack mentality and earn more money and do it in such a way that it moves you towards your vision? And that's whenever you create this momentum that comes from a very aligned, very soulful place, but yeah, it's super powerful, not just for you, but for your clients as well.
I think that's so important. Like, momentum is like your biggest thing to have on your side, because it makes things so much easier. Otherwise, you know, growing the business just becomes a constant stop, start, because you're missing the pieces. So I, after I had the baby, you know, it's a big shock to your system, right? So you are a free person on Sunday night, and on Monday night, you are not. It was like, oh, so I have this idea, but hang on, I can't work on it. Hey, I have this, but it's not the convenient time right now. So when your life changes like that, you need time to adjust to that, but you have to work towards actually making that happen, because otherwise you're just constantly stuck. And then I would spend all day going around saying, well, I don't have time, I can't do this, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And then the momentum's completely gone. And then to build that momentum up again, it takes a little while. Like, I would say easily, if you start to commit into it, probably about 3 or 4 weeks to start seeing the first effects of actually taking action. But if you're taking action in the wrong direction, it's like you're just walking in circles. So sometimes we need to spend more time valuing our own time, and it's quicker to go and pay someone else to help you to work out what to do next than it is to waste 1 year of your life that you're never going to get back to go and try and, you know, tap around in the dark to work it out yourself. So, I don't know, I got to the point where I was just like, I respect my own time, and I want to make things happen quicker. And to do that, I'm going to go and get some help from somebody that's been there and done that, so that I don't have to make the same mistakes that other people have already made 30 times. Like, it doesn't make any sense. But it's like you have to make a decision to actually go and invest in that, and to say, hey, I'm making my life, my business a priority, because you could always, you know, you could always spend that money on the kids, you could spend it on your next holiday. So it's about making that decision. That helped me. And sometimes, I mean, for me, it was coincidence. I would have never joined my mastermind if I hadn't pressed the wrong button on Facebook. So, wow. So I like to call it. It's like, yeah, I basically, I was scrolling through a Facebook group and I was going to reply to a comment. And then, you know, when it reloads and you're like, you've like tapped, but it's pushed the next thing down. So I was like, oh, okay. Oh, now I've tapped on the wrong thing again. I wasn't looking properly. And then I was like, oh, that person's doing a mastermind. Well, that's interesting. Well, I'll have a look at it. And then it was just right place, right time. So wow, how do you talk to people that, Natasha's asked a really good question, how do you talk to people that don't believe in it? Because I personally think this works for as good as anyone, but she's saying her husband won't charge what he's worth, because he's really amazing at what he does, but he won't do it. But manifestation would not be happening in his life. So how can we bring this closer to people that really find these kind of ideas super foreign?
Well, we can't change them. That's, you know, the first thing. We can't force them to change. The more that we tell them they need to increase their prices or strongly suggest it, the more that they won't do it. And so you can be the light for them and for that person. And what I mean by being the light is just be in your power, make empowered choices, you know, if you have that liberty, increase your prices, be the example for them so that whenever they see you moving forward, then they can, it's going to happen in their own time. They have to be ready for it. And so I just think that, you know, I'm the light for my clients are the light for their clients, and it has this ripple effect. And so, you know, you just have to let their journey be their journey and honour that. And I think the less that you say something, but your energy and the successes and the vision that you have in your life, business, whatever it is that you do, then that will impact him. And what I know to be true is that they're always watching. Everybody from the outside, from the inside is watching. They're listening. They're learning. They may not be vocal about it, but they're picking up on everything that you're doing. And it sometimes takes, like some of my clients, it takes them, you know, I've had clients a year later that come to me and are ready to work with me, but a year ago they wanted that, but it takes them time to almost become in the receptive mode to the idea, to the investment, to what it is they need. So it's key, especially, you know, in my work, like I have to just honour that process, and that's kind of the biggest piece of advice that I can give you.
No, that makes sense. I think it's it's hard because you're standing there and you feel like you want to pick something heavy up and bump them on the head with it. And you're just like, you just need to do it now. Just like, stop being silly. But it doesn't work because, to be honest, even if you make someone do something, like if I say, hey, you know, you're my client, I'm telling you to increase your prices. If they don't believe in it, they won't sell anything. So they'll get on the call and the person will says, yes, I'd love to work with you. How much is it? And you'll go, and they'll be like, sorry, I didn't hear how much that is. And if you feel bad about what you're charging, it's never going to actually sell. And I think that's
totally, yeah.
I think that's just one of those things. So I know we always have an argument about people saying, you shouldn't work for free. You shouldn't work for a low rate when you're starting out. And I'm thinking like, well, if you right now haven't got the confidence in yourself that you can actually do this job and you cannot sell anything to anyone, then aren't you better off to get that confidence if that is what you need? I did that for the first 5 times and I was like, hey, I can do this. I can charge for this. And then I felt so much more convinced to go out and actually tell people what the price is for something.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, it's a funny thing. Like, it's all
one day he could just raise his prices and raise them in a really big way, but his energy behind the scenes could be, you know, raising, and then he is confident enough to just take that step, kind of like what you said. You were raising your vibration by doing those 5 free sessions, and then you just went out there and you built this incredible business. So we're all different, which makes our work really interesting.
It totally does. It also makes it extremely frustrating sometimes. It's like, oh, I don't understand what this person's doing or what they're trying to tell me. So, yeah, I think we need to take a lot of time. Like I've always worked with people based on who they are more than what they know.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always felt like, hey, I can teach you something that you don't know, but I can't make you a nice person if you're not genuinely nice. So I was like, I'd invest the time in anyone and teach them skills, but I can't help them beyond that. And it's the same here. It's like, I can't make someone else make that decision. I can give you some options, but the decision has to kind of come from you. So I've had plenty of people that got in touch, had a discovery call, and then like a year later actually end up booking our services. And it's because when they first booked the call, somebody else had told them to go and get help for their business.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't believe that their business needed any help. So I was on the call and I'm like, okay, so, you know, what is it that you're stuck with? Well, this, and this, but this, but. So there was always this but, like, I'm stuck with this, but I'm not going to get any help or whatever it was. And then a year later they get back in touch and they're like, oh, you know what? I really need to get help right now because I've got this, and this, and I can't all get it done. And I need someone that can help me with this. And I'm like, yeah, now we can help you because you will let us.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to a point where I said, if somebody comes forced by somebody else, I will no longer work with them, because it just seems to cause difficulties like further down the line, because they're not the ones that want to be getting help. So that helped me an awful lot. Like, realizing that some people just aren't ready right now, and there's no point to chase them. There's no point to follow up and follow up and follow up and follow up, because right now it may not be the right time. And after a while, I feel like you can tell when you're talking to someone if it's the right time for them to get help or not. So
definitely, they have to be in that place of pain and really, really wanting to get out of the pain and make it their non-negotiable. I mean, I don't even follow up with clients. I just think if they want this, like me, they're going to get out of their own way and they're going to allow it to happen.
I very much agree with that. And I know there's a lot of sales techniques, and people are like, oh yeah, you have to follow up like every this much. And I'm like, I only follow up if I truly have the feeling that, they've just forgotten to reply to my email. But that's the only time I will. Any other time I'm just like, well, if they don't want it, they know where I am. I'll get in touch in 3 months' time and ask them how they are, to have like a genuine conversation. But I'm not going to go and try and hard sell them something that they're not ready for. So, there is so much to think about. So if you think about somebody wanting to get started to make a decision, because that's the first thing that they're going to have to do, right? They're going to have to make a decision that they're going to take some action to get themselves out of that mindset that they're in right now and try and let more things come to them. What do you think they should start with?
Well, the decision has to be in alignment with the thing that they want to achieve. Mm-hmm. So they have to have, it's enough to have a seedling of an idea, something that you can water, something that then becomes the foundation for the business that you're going to build. But because they're in this group, they're more than likely an entrepreneur. And so you either have the idea or you have the inclination that you're meant for more. And honestly, that's enough. Like, feel into what would feel the most expansive for me to do next. And just ask yourself that question. And I just knew I was never going to do it alone. I needed guidance. I needed help. And so for me, the first thing I did was hire a coach. And then, I hired a couple of VAs and outsourced a lot of things. But I think just surround yourself with people who are on the same journey or very similar. Because when you find it hard to make a decision and you see other people going out there, going after their dreams and really going for it, it almost becomes this kind of like thing where it's going to be okay. Nobody's going to die. Worst case scenario, you'll lose a few pounds or it'll take you longer than what you ever thought possible. But that's it. And for me, it was always worse that I couldn't fulfill the deepest part of me and go out there and do this work. You need to tap into that. You need to really get real with why you want this. What does it mean to you? What impact would it have? Not just on you, but on your life as a mum, wife, whatever is going on for you. And when you almost become, less selfish, then you will get out of your own way and just make that decision. And so it has to energetically feel right. Like, decisions I've made have been really scary, but I've been guided to that person or guided to, host that event or whatever it is. And that for me has been much stronger than saying no. If I said no, I would stay stuck. So the pain for me was always greater. And I think you need to weigh that up and say to yourself, well, what's the worst thing that could happen? But what's the best thing that could happen? Because you can change the trajectory of your whole life and business within 3 months, within 6 months, within a year. And, May next year, you could have this phenomenal 6-figure business. That's the reality.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was talking about the other day, because I said that when I started my business, I never expected it to work this quickly. So I started like April 2016, and then by July I was like, I need help. Like I just cannot handle it. There's too much work. I have my job still. And then I had to actually quit my job. Like, there was no other option. I couldn't have continued that other way. But I totally wasn't ready for it. It hit me by surprise because remember, building businesses is hard work. You have to be working a lot of hours. And I wasn't really. I was putting in evenings and weekends on top of my job. But once my job was gone, it wasn't actually all that difficult. And then it's like I almost made life more difficult for myself. So, you know, I basically fell pregnant 2 weeks later. I was like, well, you didn't think this was difficult? Here, have a baby and just get sick for 3 months and have this coming along. So it's like I was telling myself that this was too easy. And suddenly I'm like, oh, I'm sick. Just like growing a child, I don't like it. So like, this isn't for me. I was like, okay, great. It's like, now I have the baby. Now I have one that doesn't sleep. So it was like, oh, could anything else more difficult come along? And I think it's like almost like as if I'm asking for it sometimes. So it's like, I was like, I've got to get out of that. It has to involve hard work and it has to involve long hours and it has to be difficult. So yeah.
Interesting.
I think, and that's the funny thing. I swear everyone probably has something different, right? That they're telling themselves. I don't know how many different kind of common things you come across, like the things I tell myself about my life, but I think
I see that all the time with clients where it almost feels too easy, you know, so they find their flow and then they sabotage, they upper limit and they self-sabotage and they go back to their old habits because the flow way feels expansive. Like, I have so much free time now, I'm not joking. And I never thought I would reach that place, especially when you have 2 kids. And, you know, it just, we're busy. They have a lot on. I have a lot on. My husband runs 2 businesses. I never thought I would have this much free time. But actually, it feels really expansive for me. And so a lot of women, when they get that, they go into panic mode and they think it's not supposed to be this way. What can I do to go back to the old me because that felt safer? And that's exactly what you're talking about, but you really want to start to rewire yourself so that you move towards that place of having more time. That's why you're doing this business and really staying in the place where you should be, which is alignment and flow. And with that comes this higher vibration of more joy, more fulfillment, more love for your business. And you know, you get that amazing idea to launch your next program or bring in this other member of staff who's going to take care of this part of your business. And that's how a CEO should be working. Like, really challenge yourself to up level wherever you are in your business today and just say, like, where am I holding myself back? Where am I playing small? Where can I go bigger? What would that look like? How would that excite me? You know, these are the questions I'm kind of asking myself all the time. And it's just really interesting to see the answers that you get and the collaborations or the relationships that then allows you to form or invite in.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have gone in a year ago and like just sent people a message and being like, hey, I want to do this show thing every week. I'd really love to go live every week. Do you fancy coming on and like talking about something that you're super passionate about? I wouldn't have even gotten the idea, but I've just come back from the mastermind weekend and I thought, I think this is a good idea. There's too many people with a message and too many people not doing it. I was like, let's make a space for this. Just like, I want to do this. And sometimes you just have to act on it. And like people have asked me, like, well, what is the long-term plan with this? And I'm like, I don't have one. This just seemed like a really good idea. I'm just like, I think I want to be doing this. So I'm just going to go and do it and see what happens because it might bring more and you just don't know what it is. So that was kind of my decision. So I'm like, don't let it stop you now. Make it happen. Like, just start next week, like before you talk yourself out of it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think influence and connection is really important, especially in the virtual world, because we're so used to sending emails and messages and all of that. But actually being able to jump on an interview like this and be on video, it's kind of like, you know, you're positioning yourself and your audience and you're being seen as more credible. So this is going to open so many doors for you. I just know it. It's super powerful.
And that's the thing, like everyone has something that they need to be doing more of because it's actually what they're meant to be doing. And it's just, it takes time. Like to me, it took time to get to that point. So, right, we're coming up to 2:00, which I can't quite believe. So, let me just double check. there wasn't any other question there. So if people want to know more about you, where can they go? How can they learn about working with you so they can stop telling themselves things about themselves that they shouldn't be saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go on to my website, lynnetaggart.com. I have a Facebook group called Miracles, Success and Sisterhood, and I'm on Instagram, and all of my Work With Me page and everything will be linked from those places.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think we could benefit from learning more, even if it's just talking to people that have already started on this journey and picking up from them. Like sometimes just reading how this is working for everyone else makes such a big difference. So I would recommend the Facebook group 100%, because there's always people sharing the things that happen to them. And to me, it really makes it clear that, hey, this is a thing that is possible.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So when someone's new, I would say that you have to join. Okay. I think that's it. Let me just check the questions one more time. Okie dokes. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to actually come and talk to everyone. I think it's probably given quite a lot of people some new ideas.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been such fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again. And so next week, I think it's just going to be me. It's the day before my birthday next week. So I was like, I'm not really sure if I'll manage to squeeze something else in, but I'll do a show.
Oh, you have to.
So I was like, next week it's going to be me. And then the topic for next month is going to be all about juggling all the things, because there are so many of us here that have jobs, have children. There's a couple of us that have ongoing health issues that they need the time to actually be able to address. So that's going to be all of July. So we're going to have loads of people coming on to talk about that. We're going to have Ali Björk, Jessica Fernley, Sarah Shuttle, definitely booked, and I'm waiting for the last one. So I'm excited for what's coming up in the next month. And then I'll catch you all again for the next session next week, Wednesday at the same time. And thank you again, Lynne.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
Bye, ladies.